At the edge of the Arabian Peninsula, where the desert stretches endlessly beneath a burning sun, there is a country that seems almost impossible. A place where ancient fishing villages once stood along a quiet coastline, where life was shaped by the sea, the sand, and survival. A place with no vast forests, no endless rivers, and no fertile lands capable of feeding millions. Yet beneath this harsh landscape was a discovery that would change everything. Within a single generation, a small desert nation transformed into one of the most influential countries on Earth. Skyscrapers rose from empty horizons. Global investments reached across continents. A country once known only to a few became a stage for the entire world. But Qatar's rise was not simply the story of wealth. It is the story of ambition, strategy, and a nation that used the resources beneath its soil to build a future far beyond its borders. This is Qatar. Before we get started, where are you watching from today? Comment your city or country below. I'd love to know who's joining this journey. Before the skyline, before the luxury hotels, before the air-conditioned malls, artificial islands, and stadiums that seem to defy the desert itself, there was simply the land, and the land gave almost nothing away. Qatar is a narrow peninsula that extends into the Persian Gulf from the northeastern edge of the Arabian Peninsula. It covers just 11,571 square kilometers, smaller than Connecticut and tiny compared to nearly every country that surrounds it. Its only land border is with Saudi Arabia. Everywhere else, it is embraced by the calm blue waters of the Gulf. At first glance, there is nothing extraordinary about it. No towering mountain ranges, no mighty rivers carving through fertile valleys, no dense forests, no vast lakes. The highest point in the entire country barely reaches 103 meters above sea level. The landscape is overwhelmingly flat, a world of limestone plains, gravel deserts, shifting dunes, and salt flats stretching toward an endless horizon. Water has always been scarce. Rainfall is so limited that an entire year can pass with barely a few centimeters reaching the ground. Summers regularly climb above 45 degrees Celsius, while humidity rolling in from the Gulf transforms the heat into something almost unbearable. Step outside in July, and it feels less like walking through air than stepping into an enormous oven wrapped in steam. For centuries, survival here demanded extraordinary resilience. The desert offered little for farming. Freshwater was almost non-existent. Life gathered instead along the coast, where the sea became Qatar's lifeline. Fishing fed communities, trade connected them to distant civilizations. And beneath the Gulf's clear waters lay one of the world's finest pearl beds. Long before oil or natural gas, pearl diving was Qatar's greatest source of wealth. Every summer, fleets of wooden dhows carried divers into the Gulf, where they descended without oxygen tanks, holding only their breath in search of oysters that might contain a pearl valuable enough to support an entire family for months. Then, almost overnight, everything collapsed. During the 1920s, Japan perfected cultured pearls, flooding international markets with pearls that were cheaper, more consistent, and easier to produce. Demand for natural Gulf pearls evaporated. Entire coastal economies across the Arabian Gulf, including Qatar's, plunged into poverty. By the 1930s, many families who had once depended on the sea were struggling simply to survive. It seemed like the worst possible time to be a tiny desert peninsula with few natural advantages. But beneath the waters off Qatar's northern coast lay something no one fully understood. The North Field, the largest natural gas field ever discovered on Earth, shared with neighboring Iran, where it is known as South Pars. Its reserves are so immense that they contain roughly 10% of the planet's known natural gas. For a country this small, the discovery was nothing short of geological destiny. Everything that defines modern Qatar, its glittering skyline, global investments, powerful diplomacy, world-class airline, and astonishing wealth can be traced back to this single accident of nature. The land itself never changed. It remained small, flat, dry, relentlessly hot. The only difference was what had been hiding beneath it all along. On paper, Qatar shouldn't make sense. A country of just 2.7 million people, smaller than many of the world's cities. Barely visible on most maps, yet its influence stretches across continents, but the first number everyone notices is also the most misleading. Because Qatar's population is not what it appears to be. Of the roughly 7 million people living in the country, only around 320,000 are Qatari citizens. The remaining nearly 90% are expatriates and migrant workers, the highest proportion of foreign-born residents in any country on Earth. They come from India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, the Philippines, Egypt, Kenya, the United Kingdom, and dozens of other nations, drawn by opportunities created during Qatar's astonishing economic rise. This isn't a temporary labor shortage. It is the foundation upon which modern Qatar was built. Without foreign workers, there would be no skyscrapers piercing Doha's skyline. No ports handling global trade. No airports welcoming millions of travelers. No stadiums that hosted the FIFA World Cup. Nearly every major project that transformed Qatar from a quiet Gulf peninsula into a global powerhouse was built by hands that came from somewhere else. Then there is the money. Qatar's economy produces a gross domestic product of well over $200 billion, despite its tiny population. Thanks largely to liquefied natural gas exports, it consistently ranks among the countries with the highest GDP per capita in the world, often exceeding $80,000 per person, but averages hide reality. For Qatari citizens, that wealth translates into extraordinary privileges: no personal income tax, free public healthcare, free education, subsidized housing, generous utility support, and government benefits that few countries can match. For many migrant workers, life has historically looked very different. While reforms have improved labor protections in recent years, including the dismantling of key parts of the controversial kafala sponsorship system and the introduction of a minimum wage, international human rights organizations continue to document concerns over working conditions, recruitment debt, wage disputes, and worker welfare. Modern Qatar is, in many ways, a nation where immense prosperity and difficult realities exist side by side. And then there is the number that truly explains Qatar's global reach. The Qatar Investment Authority, the country's sovereign wealth fund, manages assets estimated at more than $500 billion. This is where natural gas becomes global influence. The fund owns significant stakes in some of the world's biggest companies, including Volkswagen, Barclays, and Siemens. It is invested in Heathrow Airport, the Shard in London, luxury hotels, prime real estate in New York and Paris, technology firms, infrastructure, and countless strategic assets spread across Europe, Asia, Africa, and North America. These are not simply investments seeking profit, they are investments seeking permanence. Every office tower purchased, every airport stake acquired. Every landmark woven into Qatar's portfolio strengthens its place in the global economy. For a nation occupying just 11,571 square kilometers, Qatar's financial footprint is astonishingly disproportionate. Its borders are small. Its balance sheet is enormous, and in the 21st century, that balance sheet has become one of the country's most powerful geopolitical weapons. Qatar has only one truly great city, and that tells you almost everything about the country. Unlike many nations whose populations are scattered across dozens of major urban centers, nearly everyone in Qatar is drawn toward a single destination: Doha. It is the political capital, the financial center, the cultural heart, and the place where almost everything happens. More than 80% of Qatar's population lives in and around this metropolitan area, turning what was once a quiet fishing village into one of the fastest-growing cities on Earth. Just 70 years ago, Doha was almost unrecognizable. Rows of coral stone houses lined a modest harbor. Wooden dhows filled the bay. Merchants traded pearls, fish, dates, and spices beneath the relentless Gulf sun. There were no skyscrapers piercing the horizon, no luxury hotels, no 6-lane highways, no skyline worthy of postcards. Then came natural gas. Few cities in modern history have transformed as dramatically or as quickly as Doha. In just a few decades, billions of dollars reshaped the landscape. Glass towers replaced fishing boats. Artificial islands rose from the sea. Entire districts appeared where empty coastline once stretched uninterrupted. Today, West Bay's skyline rivals those of Singapore and Hong Kong, while Lusail City, built almost entirely from scratch north of Doha, stands as one of the world's most ambitious urban development projects. Designed for more than 200,000 residents, Lusail is a city that barely existed 20 years ago but now hosts luxury neighborhoods, marinas, smart infrastructure, and the stadium that welcomed the 2022 FIFA World Cup final. Yet Doha is more than a city of steel and glass. It is one of the most international places on Earth. Nearly 9 out of every 10 people living in Qatar are foreign-born. Walk through the streets, and within a few blocks, you may hear Arabic, English, Hindi, Urdu, Nepali, Tagalog, Bengali, Malayalam, and dozens of other languages. Construction workers from South Asia, engineers from Europe, entrepreneurs from Africa, executives from North America, and professionals from across the Middle East all contribute to a city unlike almost anywhere else. This diversity gives Doha an energy rarely found in cities of its size. Traditional souks sit beside futuristic shopping malls. Ancient dhow boats share the waterfront with luxury yachts. The centuries-old alleys of Souq Waqif exist only minutes away from the futuristic towers of Musharraf downtown and the gleaming skyline of West Bay. Beyond Doha lie Qatar's quieter cities. Al Rayyan, now largely merged with the capital's expanding suburbs, is home to major universities within Education City and several of the country's World Cup stadiums. Al Wakra, once a pearl diving settlement, has evolved into a rapidly growing coastal city while preserving much of its maritime heritage. Further north, Al Khor supports Qatar's massive liquefied natural gas industry and serves as the gateway to the North Field, the resource that transformed the nation forever. Despite these growing urban centers, Qatar remains remarkably centralized. Nearly every road leads back to Doha. Every major decision is made there. Every global event passes through it. For a country smaller than many of the world's cities, Qatar has built an urban landscape that feels far larger than its borders suggest. Its cities are not monuments to history, they are monuments to ambition. If Qatar's greatest resource is natural gas, its greatest paradox is its people. Because very few of the people living in Qatar are actually Qatari. Out of a population of nearly 2.7 million, only around 320,000 are citizens. Everyone else, almost 90% of the country, came from somewhere else. No other nation on Earth has such a small native population living alongside such a vast foreign workforce. It is one of the most extraordinary demographic stories in the modern world. The Qatari people trace their roots to the Bedouin tribes of the Arabian Peninsula. Long before skyscrapers dominated Doha's skyline, their ancestors survived by pearl diving, fishing, camel herding, and trading across the Gulf. Life in the desert demanded resilience, generosity, and loyalty, values that continue to define Qatari society today. Hospitality is more than courtesy. It is tradition. Guests are welcomed with Arabic coffee, sweet dates, and conversation in the majlis, a gathering space that remains at the heart of family and community life. Even in an age of luxury cars and glass towers, the majlis continues to be where relationships are strengthened, disputes are settled, and important decisions are quietly discussed. Family also plays an enormous role. The ruling Al Thani family has governed Qatar since the 19th century. But society itself remains deeply connected through tribal heritage. Family reputation, mutual trust and long-standing relationships still influence business, politics, and everyday life in ways that outsiders often underestimate. Yet Qatar is also one of the fastest changing societies on Earth. Within the lifetime of a single generation, many Qataris witnessed their country transform from a modest pearl diving economy into one of the wealthiest nations in history. Few societies have experienced such an extraordinary leap in prosperity so quickly. That transformation has reshaped expectations, lifestyles, and even national identity. Today's younger Qataris are highly educated, globally connected, and increasingly bilingual. Many study in the United States or the United Kingdom, while others attend Education City, one of the world's most ambitious higher education projects. Here, prestigious universities, including Georgetown, Northwestern, Carnegie Mellon, Texas A&M, and Weill Cornell Medicine, operate international campuses bringing world-class education directly to Doha. Women have also become an increasingly important part of Qatar's development. Although the country remains socially conservative and deeply rooted in Islamic traditions, Qatari women now represent the majority of university students. They serve as ministers, diplomats, entrepreneurs, professors, scientists, and executives. Much of Qatar's educational and cultural transformation has been driven by Sheikha Moza bint Nasser, whose influence extends far beyond the country itself through major initiatives in education, science, and global development. But to understand Qatar, one must also understand the people who built it. Millions of migrant workers from India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and the Philippines have spent decades constructing the roads, ports, airports, hotels, stadiums, and skyscrapers that transformed the country. Others work as nurses, teachers, engineers, drivers, domestic helpers, retail staff, and hospitality workers, keeping every part of the economy moving. Without them, modern Qatar simply would not exist. For decades, however, many of these workers lived under the controversial kafala, or sponsorship, system, which tied their legal status to their employers and severely restricted their ability to change jobs or leave the country without permission. Human rights organizations documented widespread concerns over passport confiscation, unpaid wages, recruitment debt, excessive working hours, and unsafe conditions, criticisms that intensified during preparations for the 2022 FIFA World Cup. Facing unprecedented international scrutiny, Qatar introduced significant labor reforms beginning in 2018. Exit permits for most workers were abolished. A non-discriminatory minimum wage was introduced. Workers gained greater freedom to change employers, and new labor dispute mechanisms were created. International organizations, including the International Labour Organization, have acknowledged these reforms as meaningful progress. Yet many human rights groups argue that enforcement remains inconsistent and that abuses have not disappeared. That contradiction defines modern Qatar. It is a country celebrated for extraordinary prosperity, remarkable safety, and breathtaking development. Yet it is also a country whose success has depended on millions of people who may spend decades helping build it, while never truly belonging to it. Perhaps that is the defining reality of Qatar. It is a nation where the minority owns the state. The majority built it, and together they created one of the most remarkable and most complicated societies of the 21st century. As the sun begins to sink over Doha, the desert softens. The fierce heat gives way to a gentle breeze, especially during the winter months, when temperatures settle into a comfortable 20 degrees and the city becomes almost unrecognizable from the furnace it is in summer. The glass towers of West Bay catch the last golden light, reflecting a skyline that did not exist a generation ago. But beneath that skyline, 1,000 different stories unfold. Along the Corniche, families stroll beside the calm waters of the Persian Gulf. Qatari children race along the promenade while expatriate families speak in Arabic, English, Hindi, Urdu, Tagalog, and Nepali. Luxury cars glide past traditional wooden dhows, a quiet reminder that old Qatar and new Qatar still share the same shoreline. A few minutes away, Souq Waqif comes alive. The scent of saffron, oud, grilled kebabs, and cardamom coffee fills the narrow alleyways. Merchants bargain with tourists beneath restored mud brick buildings, while elderly Qataris gather in the majlis, discussing everything from football to politics over tiny cups of gawa. Meanwhile, inside the towers of West Bay, another kind of marketplace is still open. Investment managers monitor billions of dollars flowing through global markets. Energy executives negotiate contracts that will power cities thousands of kilometers away. Diplomats quietly meet over dinner, discussing ceasefires, trade agreements, and crises that may never appear in tomorrow's headlines. In Education City, students leave evening lectures carrying degrees that will shape Qatar long after its natural gas begins to decline. Across the city, another shift is ending. Construction workers board buses back to labor accommodations after helping build the roads, towers, and neighborhoods that continue to reshape Doha. Many will spend the evening speaking to families thousands of kilometers away, reminding loved ones that the sacrifices are worth it. These lives rarely intersect, yet together, they keep Qatar moving. As darkness settles over the Gulf, the city's lights begin to shine. From above, Doha looks like any great global metropolis. But appearances can be deceiving. Everything, the skyline, the diplomacy, the universities, the World Cup stadiums, the global investments, even the conversations taking place behind palace doors, can all be traced back to one extraordinary discovery beneath the sea. Qatar is more than a rich country. It is one of the boldest experiments in modern nation building. A nation that transformed natural gas into global influence, and whose story is still being written. Was Qatar's extraordinary gamble worth it? The answer depends on who is asked. In just half a century, a nation once known only to pearl divers and fishermen transformed itself into one of the most influential countries on Earth. It turned natural gas into global investments. Desert into skylines, a forgotten peninsula into a destination visited by presidents, billionaires, athletes, and diplomats. Qatar brought visibility. It brought influence. The story of Qatar is far from over. In many ways, it is only just beginning.